What's going on, everyone? Danny Vega here, also known as Danny V, and welcome back to the Danny Vega Show. This past weekend, I saw Shang Chi. I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. The hype, I would like to say it's real, but I think it's a little too hyped. However, it is a good kung fu movie that just went and slapped Marvel right into it. Legit, it just BAM! Made by Marvel. And the reason why I say that is because it doesn't feel like a Marvel movie, but it has some Marvel peeps in it and some Marvel mistakes. By the way, this is gonna be some spoilers in here, so spoiler warning, just really quick so you guys, you guys don't get so pissed off like, you ruined it for me, ah! In this movie, you have Sean, whose real name is Shang Chi, which is so funny because even Aquafina's character is just like, Sean, you changed your name from Shang to Sean? Like, are we for real right now? And the reason being is because, you find out that Sean grew up as an assassin. His dad trained him his whole life to be an assassin after his mom died. And he runs away to the United States to get away from his dad. And he changes his name from Shang to Sean. So she makes fun of him. And speaking of which, the comedy in the movie isn't slapstick like Marvel, like, hey, here's a comedic moment. Aquafina, her delivery is really well, and you can tell because of all her characters in the other movies, she's just herself. The humor is Aquafina humor, but it's just at the right time. So it's very cool to have those moments that is not super forced like usual Marvel does. And the beginning fight scene, very kung fu-y, Hong Kong fu-y. I can't stop laughing. I can't believe I fucking said that. That's so fucking the worst. But the kung fu is really good. The kung fu is very reminiscent of Jackie Chan. I love that. I don't know if that's a homage or homage to Jackie Chan, but the style that Shang has in there is legit running and, isolating your opponents. Very reminiscent of like old school Jackie Chan movies. And speaking of old school Jackie Chan movies, Michelle Yao, I forgot how to pronounce her last name. She's like in everything that's kung fu related. And I love the fact that she's in there. The only thing we were missing was actually Jackie Chan in the movie, just saying. But yeah, the kung fu was really good. And I love that it has the culture in there of kung fu. I do love the fact that they did change the rings from the finger rings into the rings on the arm. So a lot of people don't know that it's a style in kung fu that you see it a lot, especially old school kung fu movies with the rings on there. Or if you're newer to kung fu, you probably saw it in Kung Fu Hustle. He was the stylist that he went to the shop, got the rings, and started fighting in that style. But it's an actual style. I love that. I love to see the culture of it, and I loved all the fighting style, even though they had some powers like towards the end. Again, if you heard in my last videos, I grew up as a martial artist, so I recognize all the different moves and the styles of it, and I think it's really cool. I think, like I said, it was a modern day kung fu movie for me. Even though John Wick has a lot of martial arts and is an action film, I still don't consider that a kung fu movie. So yeah, so that was really exciting. The action was really good. However, I do feel like there's a couple of faults in story, which a lot of kung fu movies do have, especially in old school kung fu movies. The further back you go, it's always just like, you killed my father, prepare to die. And every time they go to fight like the boss, they get beat, and then all of a sudden there's this magical way out of no way to beat them that the main character stumbled upon. It sounds like a lot like this movie. And they had a lot of that. After I saw it, I was like, oh man, that was pretty good. And then the more I thought about it and saw different people pointing out things, I was like, shit. Because Shang-Chi is the main character, cool. But what's the plot? The plot, they were talking about Tao Lo, and then you're like, okay, so there has to be something in Tao Lo. But then you realize that it's not something that Shang-Chi needs to do to go to Tao Lo or discover something. It's his dad that's going to Tao Lo, and it's all about his dad going there. Like the beginning of the story is his dad going there, and that's how he meets his mom. But then later on, it's his dad going back over there because he never got to the village. He needs to get to the village to basically save his wife that you find out is the evil villain. No, his wife's not the evil villain. There's a monster that's pretending that trapped. They're like, help me, help me. Like the little girl in Poltergeist. So I'm like, okay, so what does it have to do with him? The main character, like he should be the thing. And it's just like, oh, he's the only one that can stop his dad. But then you see like his sister was a badass and at times better than him. And I'm like, what? Okay, his sister seemed more of a badass than he was, but yet he's the only one that could defeat his dad. It all had to do with their mom because he was trained by his mom. That's the only reason why he could beat his dad. However, he was getting his ass kicked throughout the entire movie and his sister was the super badass. So for me, I'm like, all right. And then when this was pointed out too, I was like, Jesus, regardless if he's in the movie or not, things would have still played out the way they played out. And that bothers me a lot. And what I mean is that if he wasn't in the movie, his dad still would have found the artifact, would still got into Ta Lo, would still got into the monster, and then someone would be able to stop him. It's like the whole thing about in Big Bang Theory when Amy's just like, well, Indiana Jones, no matter what, if Indy wasn't in the film, the Nazis still would have got to the Ark and they would still end up dying anyway. And you're just like, oh, really? So I have a little bit of trouble with that. And then on top of that, from my understanding is that he is a master of Kung Fu. I know very little of Shang Chi in the actual comic book. So Shang Chi apparently, like most comic books and video games and cartoons and TV shows, they had an iteration of like Bruce Lee. You know, you have Mortal Kombat, you have Street Fighter, you had the whole nine. Liu Kang, Fei Long, yada, 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 yada. Apparently, from what I understand, that Shang Chi was the Bruce Lee of Marvel in the comics. He should be like Batman, knows all the styles of Kung Fu. And especially if you're depicting Bruce Lee, should be the badass, should be able to defeat anybody. The reason why he defeats the monsters is that because of the 10 rings. It's not that the rings are the monster's weakness or anything, it's just because of the 10 rings. They try to tie some loose ends from Iron Man 3. I know they already tried to do that with the short film. I don't know if you guys saw the Mandarin short film. Thought that tied it up. However, in this one, you realize that his dad is the real Mandarin. And I get it you try to tie it up, that's cool. But however, it was another thing that was there just to be there to excel to the next part of the story. And no other reason. And what I mean is that they get locked in the cellar, they find Trevor, and they find a mythical creature that can lead them the way. And then his sister was just like, oh yeah, by the way, there are underground tunnels in here. It's just like, wait, you didn't tell us that before. How? Which is funny because like in the post-credit scenes when she becomes the leader of the 10 rings, I told my girlfriend like while we were watching this, I was just like, man, his sister is super sus. If we were playing Among Us, she'd be the first one I boot out. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I thought, because like how she was acting, I thought that she was gonna be the real villain, and she wasn't. And then they had this character that seemed super menacing that just like kept, you know, whacking him, and he was like the teacher, and then, you know, Shang almost got his like redemption against that character in the beginning of the movie, and then nothing happens. That character just dies like that. Definitely has its up and downs, but overall, as an entire movie, I feel like it's good. I feel like, all right, like a Kung Fu movie that's good. Overall, I think you guys would enjoy it. I feel like it's good family fun. Whoever said that it's the greatest Marvel movie ever is definitely not. And if you follow what they say online that you need to go and watch this movie, there's an important end credit scene that ties everything up. Not really. You really don't need that post credit scene. I mean, it's pretty cool. However, it's basically just them getting initiated into the Avengers and then them singing karaoke, which was funny, by the way. Throughout the entire movie, they just kept talking about karaoke because we all know how much Asians love karaoke. It's not racist at all, right? Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about Shang-Chi in the comments below. And as always, if you love this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the little bell button for more future videos. I love you. Be safe. Talk to you soon. Peace.